You've probably heard the word funnel at some point. Maybe someone told you that you need one. Maybe you've seen some ads on Instagram, or you could have even watched a YouTube video explaining how to actually build a funnel. And if you looked into it, there's a pretty good chance that you probably thought, all right, this seems kind of complicated. This doesn't really feel like me authentically. I'm not sure how this applies to what I do as a creative. And it's completely valid to feel that way because a funnel wasn't built for you, wasn't built for creatives. Here's how a funnel actually works. So someone discovers you and enters the top of the funnel. They go through a sequence of automated steps, maybe even an email series, a video, a sales page. That person doesn't take action at exactly the right moment in that sequence. They fall out of the bottom as a completely dead lead, gone. And the only way to keep the whole thing humming and alive is to keep feeding new leads into the top constantly. So the moment you stop, the funnel actually stops completely. So for creatives who work in creative cycles, creative workflows and waves, sometimes you need space to fill back up yourself, fill back up your energy before they can move into the next creative sprint. And so today I want to show you why I think funnels are unsustainable and what I teach and guide my clients to install instead. This is what the hybrid creative flywheel is, how it works, and why it's the only business system I teach to creatives who are going through the hybrid creative sprint. By the end of this video, you're going to have a really clear picture and visual of how your creativity becomes the engine of a real business that doesn't box you in, doesn't make you feel capped, and doesn't burn you out. I'm Chris Lien. I'm a brand architect. I'm the founder of Magnetic Movement and Ignite Creative. I spent over 10 years building brands for creatives, founders, and 8-figure operators while traveling around the globe. I built a 6-figure marketing agency. I've also had a chance to work with magnetic brands like Hydro Flask, and at times I've built from cafes, co-working spaces, and hostels across 37 countries. Very grateful to have traveled to 37 countries. And the hybrid creative flywheel came directly from watching creatives and colleagues and friends of mine burn out trying to run a system that wasn't built for them. This is part 5 of a 6-part series called From Creative to Founder in the AI Era. But if you haven't watched the first 4 episodes yet, I'd recommend going back and checking those out because each episode is going to build on the previous one. Today is where we connect everything into a real business model. So if you're ready to stop trying to force yourself into a system that doesn't really feel right for you, DM me 33 on Instagram. In week 3 of the hybrid creative sprint, we are going to entirely dedicate that time to installing this flywheel around your specific creative practice. So here's how the hybrid creative flywheel actually works. So it starts with creating content. One primary short form platform where you show up and share your creative perspective. For most people going through the sprint, that's ideally going to be Instagram, but of course there's others out there. And also having one long form platform where you go deeper and do more long form versions of the content you do on short form. For most people, that's probably gonna be YouTube. So you pick one of each, short form and long form, and then you just commit to it and you keep it very simple. Your content is how you put your creative identity, your creative philosophy, and the human story behind everything that you do into the world. That's where everything begins within the flywheel. Now, content will naturally start to lead to conversations because your content is going to be very magnetic by the time you've installed what we installed week 1 and week 2. This is going to resonate with people who want to show up in your DMs or who are going to comment on your post. This is where most creatives actually may drop the ball. It's because they post and they go quiet and they go back to their old ways of just wanting to be in this creative space. But the conversations is where the real connections actually happen. So it's where a follower becomes someone who actually, trusts you and wants to work with you. And realistically, trust is what moves everything forward. So conversations, you're gonna wanna have a lot of conversations that will naturally lead to your simple, unique offer. We actually build your unique offer together for you inside the sprint. You need that one clear, simple offer that you can speak to naturally within any conversation that gets you to the point of being able to work with someone. Now, it's not gonna be a complicated suite of services. It's just gonna be one thing that you start with. And when you have trust with your ideal perfect clients and you've started to build actual rapport and relationships with them, that's where your offer becomes the next natural step. And then the offer naturally will lead to your clients, you having clients that are excited to work with you, and vice versa, you being excited to work with those ideal clients. And then of course someone says yes and they go through the experience with you, they do the work and they have some sort of, hopefully a really great transformation. And here's the part that completes the flywheel and makes it self-sustaining and a continuous flow of energy for your creative business. So at the end of your experience, you capture their story, you get their results, you'll get a script within the sprint that allows you to perform a case study for this part of the flywheel, and you get a transformation. You get what actually worked for that client and what shifts they were able to walk away with from their time working with you and interacting with you as whatever your creative offer is. So that becomes the case study. And that case study then is used in content on your short form and long form platforms, and it will feed back into the top of the flywheel loop, and then naturally will start to garnish more attention, energy, and interest from your next ideal clients who can see themselves in that story, in that transformation that your client had in the case study. So this is very simplified TLDR. Your content leads to conversations, your conversations lead to your offer leads to a client, and then your client becomes a transformational case study, and your case study becomes content. And the cool thing is that the flywheel just keeps spinning. If you take anything away from this video, this is the part that I really want you to take away from this. So what I'm about to say is extremely important, and I want you to walk away with this and be able to think about it. The truth is that in the beginning, the flywheel is going to be more set up than having fast results. So in the beginning, it'll be a little bit more of a slow burn, but that's completely normal, and it's supposed to be that way. Because what matters the most at the beginning is putting in reps and creating good creative content. And all of your content, every piece, every conversation, and every case study just adds more fuel, along with your creativity, more fuel to the flywheel. Building that sort of momentum will eventually make the whole thing self-sustaining and allow you to create a situation where you're working less and the flywheel is doing a lot of the heavy lifting for you, and you get to stay creative and let creativity be the engine for your entire business. What that ideally looks like is after about 60 to 90 days of consistent reps and input, something will click and it starts to shift. The flywheel will start to spin on its own, and the content will naturally be attracting the right people. And the conversations are actually being started by your ideal clients at that point, reaching out to you. And the clients come from the exact niche and audience that you've been building and speaking to in your content. And those case studies that you now have help you do some of the initial selling and outreach for you for your creative offer. So that's when the creative business stops feeling like a grind and starts feeling like more fun. It's an enjoyable experience to run a business when you have this sort of system in place. I'm here to tell you that you don't need to become a completely different person to build a real sustainable business. All you really need is a simple system that's built specifically for creatives. That's what the hybrid creative flywheel does. And week 3 of the sprint is entirely dedicated to installing the flywheel into your specific creative process. However you set up your platforms, how we build and position your offer, your flywheel sustains all of that and gives energy to your unique setup. So DM me 33 on Instagram to get on the early access list. It'll just be 7 spots. Now, in episode 6, we are gonna talk about the thing that ties this entire series together. Because having the identity is incredible as a starting point. Getting the AI workflow in place is going to make your creativity go to another level. And then the flywheel is just extremely powerful. But ultimately, none of that matters in the long term if you can't sustain this. In the last video, we're gonna talk about the long game and how I work with dedicated and passionate people who have long-term goals so they can win the long game. This will show you how to keep all of this running without ever burning out and without losing any of your creativity and without becoming someone that you don't really want to be in the end. And without having to become a different version of yourself, allowing you to just be the true, most authentic version that you are. So subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.